Good afternoon, good afternoon, good afternoon. Welcome to the Ask the Expert. Today, we're really talking about a very important topic. As part of our autism, what I call awareness, autism intercession, autism intervention, autism acceptance month, we're doing a number of topics that I really believe is very crucial conversations that we should be having. And so my goal is this to support families facing autism and other intellectual disabilities throughout their lifespan. And we believe in really creating connections and providing resources. And resources comes in the form of education. I think you can't underscore the importance of knowledge. And even though we know these days you have access to AI and a number of tools out there, it's still very important to talk to people who are walking the journey, people who are in the field, people who are providing the services. Um, it is so crucial. So today I have a very amazing person who I love this woman dearly. She's been a blessing to my family personally, been a blessing to a number of people that we know within our community, our faith community, actually. And also just anytime I know I have key questions about the adult services, this is somebody I reach out to. And her name is Grace Adegboyega. She's going to be doing a little bit of introduction with herself. So Grace, if you don't mind coming on camera, it would be really be awesome. And we're going to pin you off because I want to make sure we make sure that you get this hot spotlight like I was. So let me add myself a pin and we're going to be having this conversation. I had asked Grace, I just sent her the request and I said, I'm just wanting to do this topic about taking a walk into adult services and how it begins with some key important steps. So there's a lot of things to really make sure we think about when we're starting to think about our children. But one of the key things, I listened to a talk years ago, which was through the Box Center, which is the New Jersey um, disability of now it's actually part of human services too. But one of the key things that I learned in that course, I've done charting your life course, I've done the partners in policy making class, I've done the NJ Land, which is the New Jersey Leadership in Neurodevelopmental Disabilities, and I've done all these things not because I need to do more things, but I've done it, Grace, because I realized the more I learn, the more I don't know. And the more I got overwhelmed. And one of the things with the Charting Your Life course is that it's actually a science work from the University of Missouri. And one of the things that they teach you is that even at the time a child is born, that's when you should really be thinking about your future. You should be thinking about where they will land. And whether it's a neurotypical individual or an individual needs support, the goal there is that there's some certain specific activities. That's why we put our kids in sports. They're learning how to really engage with other people, right? They're learning how to what their preferences are. You put them in all these activities, charting their life to a particular place. And one of the things they teach you, which I know you will talk about when we do you create a person-centered planning tool. They said, what is a preferred future and what is a future you don't want your child or individual to have? So in
Mhm.
other words, if you want your child to go to college, you're going to have to expose them to certain areas and certain things. That's why they go to school. If
Yeah.
you want a child to go into a particular environment, there's some things that you need to be doing. But for whatever reason, a lot of parents I know because it can be overwhelming. Your day-to-day responsibilities. I mean, like you just want the individual to be safe, let alone now starting to talk about where they're going to end up in the future.
Mm.
So they always talk to parents, and especially if you're in schools, that there's a transition period. And so what I will share here is that, and I had some questions that I put down on here, and Grace is going to touch on a lot of them. You want to chart your life, your child's life, but for them, it's important that it begins at a young age. But between 14 to 17, that is when the real hardcore transition begins. And I used to hear that when I used to go to my, IEP meetings, IEPs, individualized education planning. That's the IEP meeting. We used to, if your child is in schools, right, you know that they have education up to the age of 21, quote unquote. 18, it can drop off by the age of 18 and 21, which you touch a little bit on. But once they turn 21, the bus will stop coming what would you be doing? What do you see that individual doing on a day-to-day basis if we don't pre-plan it? So the question here is between 14 and 17, there's some key things that we need to be doing, and hopefully that you can touch on that. So, what does this transition in that season really, really mean? Hopefully, we'll talk about that. And for those of you who have joined, I really want you to take this seriously, take a pen and a paper and start writing. I cannot emphasize that enough. It breaks my heart to see that people put in so much effort to get through the IEP stuff in schools, and then there's no planning about the future part of it. What are the critical steps? I put a bunch of lingo here on my thing. I talked about SSI, Medicaid, DDD, DVRS, legal planning, guardianship, supported decision making. Do you know any of those things and what they mean? If your child is between the age of 14 and 18 and you don't know any of this stuff, then I'm telling you right now, you have a lot of work to do. And even if you do, I don't know about you. I went to the School of Course Support Coordination Services stuff. I got the what they call the Bible of for the adult New Jersey DDD Division of Developmental Disability. I think I got there the book to try to read the stuff, and I still came out like my head. I can't understand this stuff. This is where I said I ended up reaching to somebody like Grace. So have you thought about college? What college? How are you going to apply to the college? Are you waiting to 17, 16? That is too late.
Mm.
Employment. What type of adult services? If you have any of these questions, you're in the right place because I'm going to put Grace on the hot seat and she's going to help us to process through some of these things. So I want to stop share for a minute. And Grace, I want you to take it over. I mean, you can start begin to share. You can introduce yourself and your role and what you do. Don't feel shy about talking about what you do because I know some of us we can be a little shy about the thing, but I want people to understand the level of expertise you have and why you're doing what you're doing. And then for the folks who are watching us online on Facebook, you can drop your questions. But for those who are in the Zoom room, we can also monitor the chat. So this way, if your questions you have, and she can answer your questions at the end of I'll have you decide how you want to do it. But if you want to hold some questions to the end and then she may potentially be answering it for you, please do so. So Grace, thank you. Thank you for what you do for individuals who needs extra support, healthcare needs, the work that you do. It is, I mean, from a parent who walks this journey, I want to say thank you. Professionals like you are the reason why we can sleep at night. And it's truthful. It's absolutely truthful. So I just want to just say thank you for coming on here and sharing what you're about to share. So on that note, welcome, Grace.
Thank you so much, Dr. Genevieve. I really appreciate this opportunity that you've given to me. So, good afternoon to everyone. If you're watching it online or some other time, good morning to you, good evening. My name is Grace Adegboyega, and I guess I will be talking about transitioning to the adult support services today. So I will request that you do hold your question or jot it down until I'm actually completed with the presentation. So I'm going to quote Einstein's one of his quote here: "Strive not to be a success, but rather to be a value." So a lot of us workers, we're all what we want to do is okay, just want to make sure my company is doing well. But one thing I've learned is in working with individuals with disability, it's not just about the success because the success comes with a value that you actually give to the people. So I'm very privileged. Again, thank you, Dr. Genevieve, for giving me this opportunity to be able to educate parents. Whether some of you are here, you already know what you are about to embark on, or maybe you don't even know. Well, I hope that this session will give you a little bit of hindsight of a big picture of what you will have to potentially do. So, a little bit of introduction about myself. I am CEO here at Care Support Services. I have been managing Care Support Services as far as a support coordination unit of it for about 8 years or more now. I'm a president. I do own a school, high school and elementary school. I've had experience for more than 23 years working in the Division of Developmental Disability, trying to help individuals in group home, day program, and such as the like. So I do lead a support coordination unit, which you will get to understand what that is if you do not know that yet. So that's the service that caters for individuals 21 years and above in the DDD world. So they're pretty much the house that are going to host you and engaging you with the community, whether your child has to go to a group home or has to be in a day program or community inclusion and such of that like. So I'll explain that later. I do also have a support brokerage company where I deal with individual family on a personal level. If you do need a staff to help you navigate some stuff, I will send you a staff that will help you with that. Maybe you want to do DVR or anything that you like your child to get engaged in. I also am a CEO for Housing Initiative, and I do work under 5 MCOs, Aetna, Fidelity, and such of the like. So I'm really grateful to God that I've been blessed for Him to give me those opportunity. So today, I'm just going to run into it because I'm sure there should be a lot of questions. If you're new to this, you will have a lot of questions. So please jot it down. I'm very passionate with teaching people, so please do not feel embarrassed to ask any question. If you have to ask 4 or 5 times, please do so. I am a mother as well. I have 3 kids, a husband, and I'm a praise leader at my church. So I'm very, very blessed and grateful for what God has given to me. So I'm going to start with the transitioning. I don't know if any one of you, by raising of hands, can just show me if you have any understanding or maybe a little bit of background as to what you envision getting your child into the DDD world. So if you can please just kind of raise your hand up, that would be really, really great. So I can kind of know as to how many people I'm speaking with and people that are knowledgeable for what I'm talking about. If you can, that would be great. Um, and if you don't, please don't be shy. It's okay. That's what we're here for. You will learn a little bit today. So, with that said, I am going to start from one of the stuff that Dr. Genevieve already stated. She made mention that it is very, very important to start early. So what do we mean by early? We're talking about ages 14 to 17. Those are the time that is very, very imperative for you to begin to search, where do I want my daughter or my son in the next 10, 15 years? What are the programs that are there that can potentially help me out as a mother? My child is going to be graduating out of high school. What do I need? So those are the things that you need to start talking about with your daughter, with your son, or potentially your spouse. I'm not sure if it's a father or mother that are here or just individual as a single parent. So when we say starting early, there are a lot of information out there, and I'm sure Dr. Genevieve can send you some of those links that has been sent to her later for you to navigate, to begin to study and to see what are the potential options that are out there. So by the age of 14, 17, you should be doing ample researches. So their web link that you can actually search, I believe the website will be, if you have a pen, www.nj.gov. You can put slash human services slash DDD, Division of Developmental Disability. I'll say that again, www.nj.gov slash human services slash DDD. Services for you to begin to start researching to see, okay, what are some of the things that I can potentially begin to study now so that I can get my daughter or my son in. So once you begin to do that preparation, one of the things that you will need to do is to kind of get a folder. And I say this because you might have to refer back to those folder. There's something called the letter of intent, and I'm going to go with my bullet point. I'm going to kind of be I would take it a little bit out of the order of what I put in here, simply because I'm not quite sure if some of you on the line do understand what it entails. So in your early phase, what I would like for you to do is to begin to put something called letter of intent. The letter is not specifically geared towards the state, but is literally for you to begin to say, these are my A through my Z of what I must attain, what I must accomplish. So in those letter of intent, you want to put things like what my son is good at. What is his potential vision for once he graduates out of the high school? Some of it, what are his behaviors? What are his regular patterns? what are some medication that he uses, who is the medical, the PCP, primary physician, his dental. If you don't have any of that, those are very, very imperative, because once you do get to, he or she gets to 21, those are some things that the state would be asking from you. So you want to begin to just jot, pretty much making a letter that says, okay, this is what I need to do. It's to yourself, but it's what will help you down the line once you begin to fill in some of those applications. And if you need a little bit of help, I will also send you to the same website that I gave to you before, www.nj.gov, to begin to prepare you. Now, one thing I would say is understanding the differences in service. So as a beginner or someone that does not understand where to go, I'm going to be sharing this screen here. So I'm going to go back and forth. Please, if you cannot see my screen, you can please let me know. So currently, I'm not sharing the PowerPoint. I am sharing a PDF file. And this PDF file is literally the steps that you must begin to take once you begin to realize that your son is 18. Please, mind you, majority of this application can take up to 4 or 5 years. So why we say start early? Trust me when we say start early, because once your child does turn 21, all the services will really help, not only debunk any stress that you have, but financially also help you out. So one of the first steps that you will need to take is to complete the application called the eligibility. You will find that also on the same website that I previously gave you. The Medicaid eligibility will tell you if your son or your daughter is eligible, even to get into the Division of Developmental Disability world. In those letter, the state will ask for a psychiatric note from your psychiatric doctor. So it's very imperative that you go to those doctors, let them get the evaluation. You can actually begin the process now. If your child is 14, start it now. So at least you're starting to kind of formulate your folder, building up to what you potentially will be needed in the future. Once you're eligible, then you will have to fill the application for the DDD. So what happens with the DDD application is they're going to give you something called the NJCAT. It's called the New Jersey Standardized Testing Tool. What that does is it's going to ask for all the preliminary questions. Who is going to be taking care of your child? Who's going to be the spokesperson? Are you going to be the spokesperson, or is your child going to be the spokesperson? If none of you are, is there a caregiver that will be able to do that for your child? Aside from that, it's going to ask you about some geographic question, and then it's going to ask you for some sensory question, some mobility questions. It's going to ask you about self-care. And there's a whole lot in there that they're going to ask you before they can determine to say, okay, we're going to put you in one program or the other. If by some chance, as it is right now, maybe your child is 14 or 14, between 14 to 18, and they have some behavioral issues, one thing I always tell people is go to your doctor. I mean, there are different websites there if your insurance cannot cover it, where you can get some type of help with those. Some of those resources were also sent to Dr. Genevieve so she can send it to you at your request. Get a behavior plan in place. Get a behaviorist to kind of check your son or your daughter to see where their state is at and how you can begin to help them before they get to 21. So as you know, whether you're in the DDD world or you're someone that does not have any mental disability, once a person gets to the age of 21, there are some characters that begins to be rebirthed out of them. So those are things that you want to start keeping on the ledger right now to kind of see, okay, what are we going to be doing? As you do get into age 21, this other documents that you're seeing here are some of the stuff that the state will be requiring of you, but I will talk about this later. So for right now, what I would like to do is just to talk about applying for the DDD service. So like I said earlier, it's very important that you do the eligibility. You got to fill that application out. If you're not eligible, your son or daughter would not get into the DDD service. That's just the way is. So there are a lot of information that they will ask you. Here's another application that I will share with you. So the reason why we say start now is these applications are not, they're not short applications. So as you can see over here, hopefully you're able to see this PDF. This is the determination for eligibility. This is about 22 pages. All right. So as you can see here, full information application if you are 18 or older. And then if you are not up to 18, here you can begin filling it. So there's a lot of information here that I will also send to Dr. Genevieve that she can send to you potentially. And you begin to see, okay, what should I be doing? In the same application, you can see here, DDD graduate timelines. So from 16 to 21. So this website is an asset for you. Once she sends you that document, that you can kind of look over to see, okay, this is what I should be starting one at a time. It's very, very imperative that you do that. So I'm not going to want to take too much time on explaining the application because it's very self-explanatory. She'll send you those information at a later time. So get abreast of this, get started early, and then you should be on your way to go. Now, when it comes to exploring Medicaid, there's a whole lot of different options. Best place for you to always go is your social services. So every county, pending the county that you reside in, just go on Google and you can just type social services or Medicaid offices in my area. It's going to populate up. I would definitely suggest the first thing you want to do is go in there. Calling them sometimes would not get you anywhere. You can get someone on the call that will say something and they don't back it up. So it's always better for you to go in person so that you can get all the outline, the letter, the bank statement, and all that good stuff that they will be asking from you. So they will list different Medicaid options for you to fill in. What you want to fill is the one that has to do with individuals with disability, mental disability. There are other numbers also that I would like to share with you here. There are 800-832-9173. Again, 800-832-9173. This phone line will actually give you a lot of information that you might need if I'm not able to share it right now on here. Now, choosing between services. Before I go into choosing between services, what does transition age? I mean, what does that entail? It's a whole lot. It entails you, like I said, doing the letter of intent, intend you ensuring that you got the eligibility, then getting Medicaid certified. Then you're going to have to fill for support coordination in your area. So there's a whole lot of steps that must be filled out. The best thing as you being a parent, or even the fact that you're on this line, I applaud you because that means that you're already starting to ensure that you're putting things in place like you should. So with that said, like I said, just to recap, the early age is 14, between 14 and 18, get your application started. By the time that is 18 and 21 is literally the transition period. So any document that you've not submitted, the state will send it back and forth to you until you ensure that all the documents that you need are sent for it. And then by the age of 20, usually they would have asked you to pick a support coordinating agency. If you do pick one, they transfer you to that support coordinating agency. There are a lot of lists on Google. Google is your friend, I promise you. As long as whatever you want to find, just put DDD in front of it and just say support coordination agency in my area. It's going to populate a lot of approved support coordinating agency, and then you're able to interview those support coordinating agency to see if they meet your needs or what you're looking for, or if they are offered in the county that you reside in. All right. So those will be some of the key important steps that you will need to take. Once you do get into a support coordinating agency, I will tell you that it becomes a little bit easier because now you have a family of people that will help navigate you to the right path. So most support coordinating agency, at least what they should be doing is doing an interview with your family to ensure that they do know you. You get to know what they're offering, and then we'll build up a plan for you. I will talk about that later. I'm going to go back into the financial planning. So Some of the state regulation is when you're applying for a Medicaid option or you go to the Medicaid offices, some of the things you want to begin to ask them, pending how much you are making as a parent, or as a guardian, you want to ask them information such as, okay, my daughter is 18, she's or he is applying into this world. What are some of the things that would deter the individual from not getting Medicaid anymore? All right. Those are specific questions that you want to begin to ask. Now, please note that whatever you make does not affect your child because your child is an individual. So it will depend on the tier that your child is. So I spoke about NJ-CAT before. The NJ-CAT, based on your responses to those questions, the state will give you a tier that your child is going to be on. That will determine the budget that they're going to give you, the tier the child will be in. So there are different tiers. You have A through F. So depending the tier that your child in is in, your child might be a little bit eligible to work. And this is where DVR comes in. All right. So when we're talking about financial planning, these are all of the things that you want to begin to speak with the individual representative that you'll be speaking to at the social services or the Medicaid office to say, okay, the state has approved for any individual if you have any mental issue. I believe as of 2026 of this year, I think it's 987 or 927 that they're allowed for you to have pending your tier. An individual with a tier of A, B, or C is eligible to work, and you can take the individual to the DVR office where they will assign a coach for that individual. The coach will come into your house, sit with you, and to kind of see, okay, what can my daughter do? What can my son do? Now, on that spectrum, for you to ensure that you're still able to hold your budget that DDD is given to you, you have to maintain, I believe, is 927 or something like that monthly. So something like that, you want to really get engaged with your representative at the Medicaid office. Very, very important that you think about all of that. Some parents also want to open a trust account or able account for their child. So something like that, you want to talk about, okay, God forbid when I get deceased, I might be transferring $100,000 to my child. How would this impact the Medicaid that my child will be receiving? Or how would this impact their SSI or SSDI, whichever one it is that your child is will be getting. So those are the financial information that you really want to sit down to discuss with the individual representative. And you can get some of this information also if you go to www.humanservices.gov DDD website. If you don't remember the site that I just quoted, just go on Google and just put DDD website. It's going to bring you, ensure you put NJ because we're talking about this is mainly for New Jersey, not for any other state. Now, I'm going to quickly go right now into the legal consideration. So, some of the things that I've seen in my experience that some parents do not venture is into getting a POA, which is a power of attorney, or they're getting guardianship, or a representative to represent your child if your child is not able to represent themselves. These are very important that you begin to look into this. Some of those applications are exceptionally long, simply because I've had to deal with some of those at my agency. So they're very tedious. So I would say begin to think about that. If you're already aged, you're exceptionally old, you want to start thinking at the end of the day, who's going to be the POA for my child? Can my child be his or her own guardian? Can I appoint a trust for my child? Can I appoint a legal, maybe not you, maybe your brother, your sister, or maybe the individual child's sister or brother? So those are the things that you want to begin to sit to think about the legal consideration and the aspect of it, because those will really count at the end of the day. You want to start thinking about any health proxy that your child might need, or begin to sign some SDM agreement. Those are very important. Those will be the some of the legal consideration that I say start thinking about now, start talking about them right now. I will get into connecting with support services as you starting off. You want to begin to actually look into your community. what are some services that are in my community right now that can be of best benefit to me? You can start Googling if you notice that maybe your child is a child that cannot really do much. High chances that the state is going to put the individual in a group home, right? So you want to start looking for group homes. And if you feel within your county there are not good enough group homes that you can put your child in, that's maybe when you want to start considering changing a county, as this will really, really matter. I do have some parents that do live their children in a particular county and live in another county. The terrible thing about that is the commute, right? So let's say you're living in Camden and then your child is in Essex County or something like that. The commute is really bad. And that's not really going to give you closure to you actually making sure that the group home your child is in is well groomed and they're treating your child well, because not all group home, I can guarantee you, are doing what they're supposed to be doing. Some group homes are very bad. So you really want to get involved in those groups homes. So those are things you need to start thinking about that. If you notice that your child actually is able to do things and you figured, okay, I don't think that this individual will be in a group home, then you want to start looking for day programs. You want to search the day programs in your community that can potentially build your child, right? Every parent, I know your child's strength. So one of those things you want to start jotting down also is what are his strengths, what are his weaknesses, what are the day program or any community inclusion services that I can include my child in that will begin to build their independence for the future. So some of these things are all the things that you would like to want to think about. Now, some individuals will probably be on a tier A or a B, which will leave them to say, okay, they are able or eligible to getting into a college, right? So you want to start asking questions. Are the state going to be able to pay for my college tuition? And if I can answer that, that is definitely yes. The state is able to pay for your child's college tuition. However, those always go through goods and services, meaning it's the FAFSA application will have to deny your child to say, okay, we're not able to pay for FAFSA. Maybe you're earning more than you're supposed to be earning, or whatever the case might be, and FAFSA is not able to pay for it. Then at that point, when you speak to agencies like my support coordination unit to say, okay, my child would really like to go to college. How can I go about it? So what we do is we're going to go through something called goods and services. Through those goods and services, we're going to ask you for the denial letter from the FAFSA office to say, okay, they denied you. If it is true that the Medicaid does deny you, then majority of the budget from your son or your daughter's account will be utilized towards him or her going to college. Usually, we will want to speak with the counseling office to ensure that the money is just not going to go to waste, right? So, those are some things I will definitely employ that you also begin to look into to say, okay, is this child able to go to college in the future? If I'm not eligible, what are other chances that I can get money to get this individual to to be better in the community. Second thing that I would definitely say is, as a parent, you should open a 529 for your child. It's very, very imperative that you begin to do that. There are majority of the 529s, there are no taxes charged to it. To you want to begin to plan for his or her future by opening a 529 for your children. There are different services that the state does offer. They offer SNAP, they offer able accounts, and things like that. If you do have questions about that, I'll be glad to definitely share things like that with you. So, what are some of the adult services that are there? So, pending the county that you're in, and this is why I keep emphasizing that you begin to do your own research in your county. There's some counties that do not offer a lot of services. Why? Because the population of individual with mental disability in that county is very low. So you might see some counties that do not really offer a lot of services geared towards individuals with mental disability. So what you want to begin to do is say, okay, what are some of the services that I can potentially see? So in a county that if you go on Google, if you're able to find group home, day program, community services, community inclusion services, respite services, occupational therapy, physical therapy. There's a lot of services that DDD offer. If you're able to find things like that in your county, I would say definitely stay there. If you're able to find maybe just 2 out of 10, I would say consider stop moving out of that county because that county might not be worth your while, especially if you wish for your child to be an important person in the community. I would definitely say start thinking about moving out of that county. So what are the other stuff here? Building a support network. That is very, very important. I get a lot of questions from parents that say, okay, I don't know what is in my community. I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing at this time. My child didn't used to behave this way, but now they're outbursting. They have behaviors that are not them. And what I usually tell them is, what have you done? The preface. I mean, what have you engaged them in? And that comes with support network. It's very, very important. Go on Google. As a matter of fact, AI has made life a lot easy. If everybody does not have WhatsApp on here, download something called WhatsApp. There's an AI there. Just type in AI. What are the support network here for my child that has mental disability? It's going to spiral and give you so much stuff in your community because if your phone is registered to that county, it's going to list thousands of support services in your area. And that's just WhatsApp. WhatsApp is free. So I would say that is definitely something you should definitely upload on your phone and to find support networks that are within your county that can potentially help your child. Like I said, knowing your child is imperative. So if AI does give you a list, you want to do your research to say, okay, is this a place that my child would beneficial in? For example, if you have a child that you know they might not be able to speak, but you know they love music, right? This is where you want to put them in a network setting where they will meet potential people that are just like them, and it can potentially help them like music. You don't have to talk to be able to work, right? There are different tools now that, as a matter of fact, the state will actually pay for. They call oh geez, what's the name of those tools? Assistive technology tool. So there are a lot of assistive technology tool that the state will actually pay for outside of your budget to give your child an assistive technology. Usually those are like little apps. Some of them look like phones, some of them look like a tablet that will speak and engage your child. And God forbid if your child is even blind, there's assistive technology tool that can help your child with those little app. They'll begin to read. They can actually volunteer or work as specified different places, even if they're blind, and they can earn money as long as they're within those regular tier where they can communicate. So those are things you want to start building now as far as network. Skill building, those are something that I feel a parent should be able to sit down to navigate with your child to say, okay, I know one thing that I've seen a lot with parents is some parents are so scared to say, oh, I don't know if my child can do this. But I can guarantee you, in the experience that I've had, a lot of parents like, oh, my son cannot do this. My son cannot do this. And I'm like, let's give it a try. And they're very surprised to say, oh my God, he's assimilating it very well. So I would say, don't be too shy to build some skill in your child. If you notice they're liking something, maybe she's a girl, maybe he's a boy, they like to eat, you want to tell them, you know what? Do you want to learn how to cut some carrots? Do you want to learn how to fry some plantains? Whatever it is, right? You want to begin to build that skill. They love music. You know what? Why don't you try? Let me get your app. We have AI app now that can generate music, and you just use a word. You can use the phrase phase one for transitioning. Create a song for me, right? You want to begin to build whatever skill it is that God has already inputted within them. Now, stay informed. There is a lot of community outing there that has to deal with support, that has to do with mental illness, that has to do with disability. on itself, get involved in some of those local meetings in your area. I believe that knowledge is very, very powerful. So the more you begin to engage, and actually, I learned that from Dr. G. It's very, very imperative. The more you begin to engage in your community, you're able to see, oh my God, I didn't know that. Oh my God, I didn't know that. So engage in your community. Go to your courthouses or the recreation event centers in your community. You'll be very shocked to know that there are a lot of individuals that do have mental disability in your county that you are not aware of. So that's what I will say as it pertains to you getting engaged and starting early on. All right, so where do I go from there? On this website, I do have the Division of Developmental Disability Support Coordination information. On that website, you're going to, if you click on there, let me just quickly go on there so I can share that with you here. Just give me a second, please. Okay, so you should kind of make this page your Bible. Like I said, there's some other websites that I've sent to Dr. Genevieve that she potentially will just send to you. There's a lot of information here for families. So what you want to do is come onto the site and then just click on the drop down button. This is like A through Z for you. It makes life very easy how to apply. How would the state assess the services? How do I go about applying for Medicaid eligibility? What are some protections that I can have for my child to just ensure that my child is okay? Are there any crisis management for my child if my child is, you know, maybe there's an outburst or some behavior issue? What are the resources that are out there to help navigate my child to the appropriate places? God forbid, maybe you're seeing a friend and there's abuse in their house. You can use those resources to help that child out to say, okay, there's a neighbor in my community and they're abusing their children. Please help. This is a website you can come to, Developmental Center, Employment, which I alluded to earlier, which deals with the DVR office, which they're very, very helpful, actually, once you get engaged with them. Guardianship, the application to fill for guardianship, the health and the safety, home and community based. So there's a whole lot in here as for family that you can just click on the drop down, click on every one of them to kind of get yourself abreasted of what's going on. Some things that I also tell is just look at the news. Things are going on differently now from what it used to be. So you want to get abreasted. Was the state stating about my child at a certain age? Will they still qualify based on whatever their primary doctor says? So you want to get those updates as you begin to go along. So with that said, I believe any questions, please free to let me know what your questions are, and I would try my possibly best to answer those questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Grace, for that presentation. I know that there are a number of people that may have questions for you, but one of the things that I definitely want us to kind of speak to a little bit, and just for me being the B, C, D, E, like key takeaways. What do I need to do? You threw a lot of information out there. A lot, a lot, a lot, a lot, a lot, a lot. Now, like I earlier, she and I were talking. I was like, she's coming at this level, and but what I think I wanted people to get clarity on is you say Medicaid. Medicaid, when people think about Medicaid, they think it's a health insurance. But then here you're talking about college. So how does Medicaid have anything to do with college payment? Like that piece. So that's one of my basic questions. And I have a bunch that I'm going to get into. So if you can answer that, like, why do we need Medicaid? Why does an individual need Medicaid?
So any individual that is on the spectrum, they get Medicaid. So there are two different type of Medicaid, right? You have the developmental aspect of Medicaid that has to deal with individuals with disability that are eligible to be on the DDD. So you do also have the other side where individuals that are not on the spectrum at all do have that Medicaid services. So that's not the Medicaid services that we're talking about. This is why it's very, very imperative that you get the eligibility first. So that Medicaid now goes towards you being eligible because you're on a spectrum or your child is on a spectrum. So that's that Medicaid that we're talking about. Now, when it comes to college, graciously, thank God, you do have some parents that really wants their child to go to school. However, because a child is on a cognitive level that is not, um, I guess, the same as any other person, the state has graciously said, okay, we're able to help with the individual's college. So that's where we use those funds for the individual's college. So I hope that helps.
Yeah, it does. But what I would add to it is just so people understand is that they're at the age of 18, they're eligible for SSI. So with the SSI comes the Medicaid aspect to cover, because I think that's so important. So they get SSI, and then with the SSI, they automatically get the Medicaid component that is necessary for them to get services. So what I usually
Correct.
sometimes tell parents is that similar to how we have this education entitlement for individuals to go to school up to the age of 21 because of the IDEA. In order for you to get adult supports and services, it's not an entitlement. You have to apply for it. Similarly, you
Mhm.
have to apply for you have to apply for the SSI. You have to get the Medicaid. You have to apply for DDD. So basically, I think I want to just make drill this home that you have to apply.
Yeah.
And that's so important so that people know that they got to do the 21 the bit. You talked about DDD, and I just want to highlight because I just want you said Google, so I did that. And you talked about eligibility. So I just want to just clarify for people that in order for them to be eligible for DDD services, and I know that people watching from other states. So other states they call it differently, but it's either way is the adult services, right? Which is usually part of human services. And this is the division on developmental disabilities. And what they do is that they have agencies like yours in New Jersey is an agency that would do a support coordination. In other states, it may be different, right? So you guys are like the support, maybe the best way to describe is a support services. Is that a word
Mhm.
for it? That
Yeah.
helps them navigate through the system. But there are requirement for to be eligible for DDD services is that the individual has to have a lifelong condition before
Correct.
the age of 22.
Mhm.
So what I would say to parents, which you alluded to, and this is where my take home is going to be, you need to make sure all your diagnosis paperwork, all the stuff that when you were first diagnosed at the age of 3 or whatever it may be, all the IEP documentation, all the psychological assessments, all the evaluations, what she was telling you about the letter of intent thingy, that binder, you need all that information. Please go find that prescription that said they first gave you that information. You
Mhm.
need that because that's what's going to establish that this was a condition. Now, somebody put it on Facebook that you beyond the psychologist and psychiatrist, I agree. You also need your medical doctor because typically, and it's related to a question about guardianship, which I'm going to allude to in a minute. You need documentation that this individual has had this diagnosis, needs supports, needs services, and it's a lifelong. So that's the first requirement. And then the second requirement was, which is where you talk about the NJCAT. The NJCAT. So people, it's NJCAT. She's saying it so quick, it sounds so
Sorry.
no, don't be sorry. I'm like, what the heck is an ninja cap? I had to learn it. It's a tool that is basically which is going to establish that the individual has substantial functional limitations. So
Mhm.
basically, they're assessing the ability to do self-care, learning things, mobility, communication, self-direction, making decisions, capacity for independent living. So it's basically assessing when they do this evaluation, the ability for this individual. So they have to meet that criteria that they're gonna need support. Basically, if you're doing those things, you're helping to bathe your kid, you're reminding them to bathe, you're
Mhm.
helping them to even turn on the faucet, any of that stuff. They need some direction. You know that they can't, if you're not there, they might not make the best decision. These are all things that will be assessed. And
Mhm.
then the third thing is you need to demonstrate that they're going to need an ongoing support.
Right.
If they meet these three things, at that point, they will be eligible for what she talks about is tier. So I'm just doing my breakdown because this is how I learned it. Because I'm telling you, professionals, you just say it, I'm like, okay. So, parents, you need to apply for adult services. That's
Mhm.
critical key step number one. That's what Grace was saying. She talked
Yeah.
about the eligibility thing. It means that you need all the documentation. So start looking for those paperwork. You will
Yeah.
absolutely need
Need
it.
it.
Need it. If you don't have it, go contact your doctor now.
Yeah.
Now, remember when you have those, and I'll segue to this thing. Every 3 years in schools, Grace, for those of us who are in IEP, you're an adult role. So those kids that are in school, the
Mhm.
school always asks you for those evaluations. And a lot of times they will tell you, do you need the evaluations done? Absolutely, yes, you should. That helped me tremendously for our son.
Mhm.
I had just done the evaluation the year before I applied. And those evaluations, because it was a comprehensive evaluation, was super helpful. So that when I applied to DDD, I was able to avoid the long form. I did the short form.
Yeah, which
That
is
was it.
even
I
the
could have.
short form is tedious.
I exactly the short form was even. No, I had to. I had to. I, I I talked to everybody. I think I called the DDD office. I called everybody. So parents, individuals, please take this information so seriously. Now, parents are here and they're like, I don't want my child to need adult services. Can you please tell us why they would need this thing? Because what does it offer? Let's use the person who has the tier A. Give me an example of a tier A person, and then give me
Mhm.
an example of a tier E. What that means is tier is TIER. If you're hearing us tier, it sounds like you're tearing, TEAR. No, it's TIER. That is just basically saying the level of support the individual may need. So
Mhm.
the A means that they don't need a lot of supports. It's like a
Mhm.
lower level. The E means it can go to F actually. The
Yes.
F is usually when the person has
Mhm.
significant medical issues. The
Mhm.
F, E, D, E, that means that if you need almost like a 24-hour support, somebody needs to be there to keep them safe and stuff
Mhm.
like that. So can you please tell us, for a parent listening right now, it's like, I'm checking the box. And I love this thing where people say, it's like, my child is a level 1 autism. My child is a level 2. My child is a level 3. And that's the definition right now in the autism levels now. And it's not just for autism, by the way, right? So it's for Down syndrome, for
Yeah.
CP, for
Mhm.
people who have epilepsy, people. So this is not just for autism spectrum. I just want to highlight that.
Mhm.
In terms of adult services, can you please tell us why this will be important for that? And then I also have another key commentary I need to make about, we said 529, so I need to make a point about that one because that's very important. And about
Well,
able. Because the
yeah.
529, they might actually make you ineligible for services. For SSI, you have to convert it to Igbo.
Well, yeah, you're right. And I
Yeah,
forgot
you
that
can't
too,
have
but
$2,000 to your name. So
you can't
you
go
can't.
above that.
So you just need to kind of clarify that point because we've done this talk on that, but I think it's very, very important.
Very important.
So yes, go for it. Why is a tier A, which is a somebody who doesn't need a lot of support, versus
Mhm.
a tier E who needs a lot of support? Can you just
Right.
comment on that?
So the question you're asking me, why is it important to have
To
the
apply and have supports
so
from state.
to be quite honest, you're saving yourself stress. I will come from that, number one. You're giving your child the opportunity to also be out there, and not just be confined in the house. You're giving yourself opportunity to also save because if the state is willing to do it. So let's come from an individual with the A tier or with the B or even with the C. Majority of those tiers are able to go further in life. They can work, they can live in an apartment by themselves, they can go to college. So I'm just going to talk about the number one. So number one, if you apply for an individual that has those type of tier, the chances of the state giving them a coach. Now, please think about this. If you don't apply, when you just go into the DVR office as just a regular person, they're a joke there. I can promise you.
What's
When you go
DVRS?
in
Can you
there,
clarify what DVRS? You and I've used it, but we didn't define it.
oh my God.
Division of Vocational Rehabilitation
Professional
Services.
rehabilitation. See, we just throw it in the air. We just, but yeah, literally that is working I guess environment
A
that
coach.
gives you the opportunity to work, get a job. So when you apply, you're kind of more of a priority than just regular person, right? So they will give you a coach instead of you as an individual also always going there. The coach can come into your house, knowing that a lot of parents with a child with disability, there's a lot of stress. There's a whole lot. You're doing 10,000 things more than a regular average parent, right? So they come into your house, sit with you. If the individual has an A, B, or C tier, right? formulate your resume pending what it is that the child wants, and they begin to actually look for a job for you. So they coach that child in itself. If the child needs a one-on-one, as opposed to taking from the budget that the state gives, just because you're on the spectrum, they will assign it an individual for that person to work. Maybe the child really wants to be a cashier and they see that there's potential there. However, the person might be maybe scared or afraid of too much people. There will be someone that will be watching that person from afar. So that's one of the part. Secondly, if you apply for your child, let's say this child is ready to just say, you know what, mom, dad, I don't want to stay with you guys anymore. There's something called housing subsidy. Now, if you don't apply, you're never going to get a housing subsidy. So the child is already working. The state pays 70%, can you imagine, for their rent, right? So it's not that now you're having to help your child pay rent. The state is going to pay 70%. The child only has to pay 30%, right? Out of their SSI. So that's one of the parts. There's a lot of parts. And I talked about the college before, right? So the state is also able to have that, as opposed to if you didn't apply and you want to do this all by yourself. I think you'll be hurting yourself. If the state is going to give you funds, take it. Why not take something that is free, So I would say that now, from coming from a perspective of an individual that is an F, yes. Usually, like Dr. Genevieve said already, an individual that is F tier, they're maybe bed bound, or they're not really able to really do anything for themselves. The funds that the state gives to those type of individual is a lot, to the point you yourself, I mean, I say this to parent, you yourself can use that funds for yourself to help your child, right? If you feel like you're comfortable to say, okay, I want to be the SDE person, I want to be the
What's an
self-directed.
SDA? Okay, you're gonna use the terminology.
I'm so sorry. I had to remember to say, okay, just don't put acronyms out there. Just say it, right? You want to be the SDE person, which is self-directed employee. I want to be an employee for my child, as opposed to getting a third party into my house. Those funds you can pay yourself to take care of your child, because nobody can do a better job than you, the parent, in my opinion, right? So those are some of the parks also, whether they're F, whether they're D, whether they're whatever, you can still use that fund to align your child to get them to a better place. So I think it's essential that you do that, is of your own benefit, as opposed to.
Well spoken. Thank you for that. I think a lot of times people don't want to be the quote unquote the ward of the state. I'm not dependent on anybody else to take care of my loved one and so on and so forth. So that's the reason why I wanted that point to be highlighted, that this is not really an intention to make you have to depend on somebody else external, but it's really to ensure that
Right.
there are supports and services that are there that your individual. So it's almost like if you go to Disney or you go to Sesame Place. If your child is
Mhm.
on a spectrum, do you know that they have a service where you can get to the front of the line so you don't have to stand
Right.
all the way in the long line? So
Exactly.
essentially, what I'm hearing you say is that we go through enough already. This is
Mhm.
there to do that. Now, I want to say that there's variations in states because there was a time that self-direction was not allowed in the state of New Jersey. So
Right.
people couldn't even do that if they wanted to, right? So not all parents
Mhm.
necessarily will be wanting to do this for their child by saying, let me pay myself. No, because if you're not qualified to take care of your loved one, you need to make sure you get somebody who's qualified to do that. In other words, you're going through certain things yourself. Don't
Mhm.
put it on to now lose yourself because
Mhm.
you're trying to hold it in. But I think it's very important to
Right.
kind of highlight that. Aderanka, you have a question. So let you ask your question, and then we'll have a question that's in the chat. So go ahead, Aderanka.
All right. Thank you. Good afternoon. And thank you so much. This is very helpful. Um, my question is this. So I know that you said that go get all your documents, everything ready, but I want to clarify. So do you mean that the last document upon transitioning out of school or
Nope.
right from when they were in school? I just want to, yeah,
Right
I
before
just,
they were in school at the Ranke, they will
uh-huh,
even need the original diagnosis.
got it. So how about the IEPs? Because every
I
year
keep
they,
all the IEPs
okay.
because what happened with me was when I was applying, they need to prove that you've had this diagnosis at the beginning at a certain point, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so what was helpful was my initial paperwork. And there was a question here, and I'll tie it to answer your question, which is, do you need guardianship before you apply for DDD? So it happened that I was applying for guardianship at the same time that I was around the same time I was applying for DDD. And in order to apply for guardianship, I needed to demonstrate that he needed the support. So I
Mhm.
needed all those documentation, the IEP documents, all that stuff. Anyway, so I added that to my, I used that for the guardianship process. That was what helped me to apply for DDD because then the DDD people are like, we need more documentation, we need more paperwork. So then I had to say, wait, I have guardianship. I couldn't have had guardianship if I didn't couldn't prove that this individual needs my guardianship,
Mhm. Mhm.
right? So what we're saying is make sure every document. So if you have a child that's 12 right now, or you have a child that's 10, you have a child that's 8, any
Mhm.
paperwork that you've had throughout for school, keep that. Scan that in now. These days we have documentation. Scan that and save that because you will need it for adult world. Don't think that once you're done with school, you're done because the tools that are needed and you may need it in other areas as well. So the goal here is not to tell you that it's just to see what are the tools that you're going to need in your journey. And that's what Grace was alluding to. And that's why I wanted to break it down even further. So it's not your last IEP document. No, 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 no. You'll
Mhm.
even need the psychological evaluations. You need the speech eval, any and everything that you've been
Everything.
given, make
Mhm.
sure that you save it because I think it's so important. What she didn't even get into was now the adult services. She talked about residential, which is housing. And
Mhm.
then there's also, she talked about the employment, but there's a number, and then she talks about the school. There's a number other long list of different type of supports and services that you can get, and which
Mhm.
means that then your child, your individual, your loved one really living their best life. I think that's really what I wanted to highlight. I know I was hounding a couple of parents and I wanted them to join this conversation. You want your child to live their best life. And you want to make sure that anything that's out there that you are potentially can apply for, you apply for it. But you can't apply for something if you don't know about it. And you can't apply for it if you don't keep the right documents. And that's really, really what we want to highlight. And so that's why she said that for between the age of 14 and 17, there are
Mhm.
some key documents and key evaluations that you should be getting that's going to be needed for 18. Now, she mentioned apply at 18, but you can't actually access these services until you're 21. So,
One.
Grace, please
Mhm.
tell us what do we do between? So, hopefully, Rosie, I answer your question. Do we need to take guardianship before applying for DDD? No, you do not. You don't need to have a guardian to apply for DDD. You can apply without it. But you're going to think about the other healthcare needs your child may have. When you have the person goes into the hospital, once they're 18, they're deemed to be their own adult. You do not have authority over them any longer. That's why the power of attorney comes in. That's where supported decision making comes in. There's a whole host of things that you need. So the goal here is that it's bigger than what we think. So hopefully that answers your question. I know Grace is gonna. So I think because of for the sake of time, I wanted to highlight that there's other services. Can you talk about the other services that the budget funds?
Mhm. Um, Yikes. The budget funds a lot. You think about occupation therapy, physical therapy, behaviorist, what are other services? Um, Apart from community-based support, community inclusion. As a matter of fact, do me a favor. I'm going to list everything to you because it's going to be of service to you.
Yeah,
Um,
that's fine.
with
Could
the
you comment
services
on
that
what
they.
community inclusion is versus community based? And I know I don't want to next time I'll have you come and talk about community based supports because that's your area of
Most
expertise.
definitely. Community-based support and community inclusion in a way kind of intertwine. The only difference is with community-based support, you have an individual come into your house, maybe a DSP, which they're called direct support professionals. I keep having to remember. Direct support professionals into your home. And what they're going to do is maybe you have a doctor's appointment, or maybe you have laundry that you like to learn how to do a laundry, how to clean your house, how to cook. The DSP will potentially help you on self-care things, right? They will just get you involved, like, okay, this is how to do this, this is how to do this. You have some errands. Maybe you like to go to the barber shop, get your daughter's hair cut. they community-based support will do that because they send an individual to your home. Community inclusion is more, they're not sending you people into your home. They want you to actually come to them. And what they're going to do is they're going to get you involved in the community. Maybe there's some type of recreation that can build the individual's potentials. They will get you involved in that. Hand arts and crafts, or maybe they just even going to the movies, maybe going bowling, things that will just cause you to be of essence in the community. So that's what community inclusion people will do. They still teach you basic skills, but they want you to be really involved in the community. So those are the two differences between those two. Yeah. And by the way, before I forget, because I know time is on, I know Dr. Ju that you talked about the ABLES account. So for individuals here, maybe there are people here already that have their child in here. You want to ensure that you actually fill the application. I think the cutoff now is 26 as of 2026. So by the time your child is turning 26, you want to make sure that, because the able account, what it does is an account that actually gives you advantage over taxes, right? So what you want to do is just ensure that you are complete that application so that you can save money without having to lose your SSI, I believe, or
Mm-hmm.
your SSA, or whichever one it is that you
Yes,
have,
SI.
DDD eligibility or Medicaid, right? As
Medicaid.
of 2026, I think the annual limit that the state is allowing you as of 2026 February is, well, they updated it. I think it's the same thing last year. It was 20,000, right? So that's how much that the annual limit that you can
Annual
put
limit. Okay,
for.
versus a lifetime limit. Yep.
Exactly. Versus the lifetime, I think is 305 or
Yeah.
295, something to that fact. So I would definitely tell you that you should, onset before you're 26, you need to get all that stuff done. So if you want to save money for your child for the future, or potentially maybe you're of old age and you want to put something away, you want to do something like that for them.
You
So I just
just gave me a heads up into a
correct.
conversation for next week, actually. So
Okay.
on our YouTube station, we have a particular webinar that we did on the NJ Able.
Mhm.
So I'm a big fan of that. So in other words, make sure if your child, you know for a fact you're getting close to 21, and you know, or you believe that your child is going to need supports and services to enable in order to help them to be able to achieve their best life, you have to take them off your life insurance. They cannot
Yeah.
be you can't list them as a beneficiary in life insurance directly. You're gonna have to, because when that happens, they will lose their eligibility for adult services if they have more than $2,000 to their name.
Oh,
This is where that sometimes people will do the special needs trust. This is where you, if maybe family members want to give them a gift, instead of giving them a check, you can open the NJ Able account or any other Able account. Really, it's Achieving Better Life. It's across the country. Different financial institutions do it. And you can open it. If you happen to have opened a 529 for your child and now you're not going to use it for college, you can convert that into the Able account. And that basically allows you to have money in there so that, yeah, so that you're able to best get the supports and services. So maybe you want to treat them to Disney World.
mm,
That's not going to come from the state. That's going to be their birthday money that they
right.
have that you saved in your Able account that will do that. So you could do that for those things. So that's what we are talking about for. But so next week, we have an attorney who's going to be talking about, the title is Taking the Fear Out of Estate Planning. Same time, 4 o'clock. It's going to be powerful, Grace. You're welcome to come back because you can refer your colleagues to that. That particular group, they've been here before. This is Hillary Freeman and Associates, their organization. Brian is going to be here to talk about taking the fee out of estate planning. So he might touch a bit on this portion about the financial portion that you mentioned, about the legal portion that you mentioned. So obviously, people, you're hearing us going into the adult world is big deal. Big, big deal. And it requires years of planning so that you don't get there. And if you wait till the child is 20.9 and now start applying, you're going to have a problem.
Yeah.
So start at 18, start looking at the paperwork, but you definitely by the age of 20. Now, if you're looking at doing guardianship and all that stuff, because you know your child is going to need you to be a guardian, legal guardian, then you definitely want to start at the age of 17 and a half, because you're going to need 3 doctors to say that, to certify, because you're taking their human rights away when you become a guardian.
Mhm.
You don't want to take anybody's human rights away. They should be able to make decisions on their own. If they can't, it's a different story. Then there's an option called supported decision making. There's an option where you can then do just an option of partial guardianship and so on and so forth. So we will have the legal people talk about that. Now, I know you can go to ChatGPT and AI and ask these questions, but sometimes it's better to ask a real
In
person
person.
because you don't want to get the information because sometimes they
Well,
do spit out the wrong things, just so
yeah.
you know. So we don't want to get it wrong just because AI told you something that's not true. So I just want to make sure. That's why I asked Grace to talk about it. Grace, how could people find you? Can email you at what?
Yes, so that would be Grace at caresupportservices.org.
Grace
So
at caresupportservices.org. You don't have to
yes.
be in New Jersey for you to connect to her. She can point you to the equivalent in your state if you're watching us online, because we really, really, really want to make sure that you leverage whatever resources that are available to you. Because that adult world is, we used to hear it like that's like the cliff. You're falling off the cliff. It is real, people. You don't have to
Mhm,
fall off the cliff though, because you're hearing information from us here.
mhm.
So Ronke, do you still have any questions as we round off? And because I know you're very learned. No, no, okay.
Sorry, that was from before. Sorry.
That's fine. So Grace, we want to say thank you for running through all the different websites. And she said we have it. We're going to send an email out to all the participants, to the people here. If your a child is 14 and older, you know someone whose child is 14 and older, start now. Which means if you have money in your name right now and they're 14, you need to move it out of their name
Mhm.
into a will account. So this way you could be eligible by the time you're looking. Because I think Medicare look does 2 years or 3 year look back. I'm
Mhm.
saying 14 just because I want you to make sure that you don't run into an issue. So this is the little that I know. And the little that Grace knows, she knows a lot. Um, so we want to say thank you for joining us, and we're definitely inviting you to come back next week at 4 as we do another topic of As the Expert. And then coming up on April 26th, 2 weeks from now, we're going to be doing our bowl and play for autism. So I want to just make sure, yes, and please share that with us. Bowl and play for autism. It is going to be here in New Jersey, in Piscataway, Circle Bowl Entertainment. We need you to join us as we continue to provide these supports and services for families. Thank you so, so much for joining us today. Thank you, Grace. God bless you.
Yeah,
Love you
thank you.
all. Have a
Yeah,
great evening, everyone. Thank you all for joining. Bye bye now.
thank you. Bye.
Bye.